All right, and here they are for your listening pleasure, all the way from South Kakalaki. It is Casey. It is Jay Wayne of the FF Dynasty. Welcome to the WarZone, guys. How you doing?
What's up, boys? We're doing all right. Thank
Yeah.
you. Nobody ever asked me how I'm doing on my show, so it's got to come on somebody else's show how they're doing.
Nobody cares. Nah, but we appreciate you guys having us.
Yeah, man,
Excited-
there's a
excited
lot
to be on
going
the show.
on. You guys down there? How's Clemson football? I know you guys are Tigers fans down there.
Just Jason.
Oh, just Jason.
Jason's a Tigers fan. Big Co's a Carolina fan, and I have no collegiate affiliation.
He's going to pick the Tigers, though, over the game.
I've been to the most Clemson games.
Have you
tailgates.
been to Bryce Stadium?
I have been to Williamsburg.
That sucks.
Yeah, the stadium's cool. The tailgate's not as fun as Clemson, though.
Too much concrete.
Good vibe in Williams-Bryce.
What? Hold on. What kind of food are we talking at Southern tailgates? Because they talk about it all the time. Because up north here, like I go to Michigan State, our tailgates are shit. Like it's a hot dogs. It's like a kid's tailgate. So are we talking like ribs and polos, or what are we looking at here?
Oh, for sure, definitely a decent amount of polos. Some 7 to 9 inch hems on the shorts for sure.
Oh boy.
That's the style, though, now, so it caught up.
But yeah, no, definitely. I mean, you'd be able to answer this better than me, but
I mean, it depends on how much money you're going to the game with. Like when I was going to school there, like we were minimalistically tailgating, right? Natty Light,
and oh yeah.
Well, I was more Bush Light. That was what.
Okay, all right, little classier.
Yeah, and or maybe not as classy. I don't know. But as you get older, you start usually prep like a big meal that your crew will do, and then I mean there's just like a lot of money and a lot of crazy shit going on all day. It's just a crazy, it's an awesome scene. Like it's one of the, I haven't been to too many college campuses, but I can't imagine there's probably a handful that would be better and worth going to. But Clemson is pretty fun. It's a good vibe. Just there's no open container loss. Everybody's getting fucked up and just. It's
getting wrecked. Everybody just wrecking shop.
Yeah, a lot of moonshine.
Yeah, and recently,
great.
since we've been so good, it's been night games. So the night games are exceptionally shitty from just getting hammered and just trying to make it all the way to 7 o'clock kickoff, and then getting out of there is the worst. But I mean, it's a blast. It's the best 25 seconds of football, and
You might get a 3-meal deal on a 7 o'clock. You might have a little catered breakfast and then some lunch and then some nice, some ribs in the smoker all day, or a big chunk of brisket or something.
So I'm there for that brisket. We could do more brisket talk. Yeah. I'm gonna go to a tailgate with Jerry at some point this season.
No, don't do that. You're gonna
Indiana's
end up with like
boring.
a little smoky link, and you're gonna get a couple. You're gonna get Fireball because it gets cold up here, which sucks.
Yeah.
So you need the Fireball, but other than that, it's lacking. Man.
Now listen, I could talk tailgate all day, but we're going to jump into the body of the show. Now, for these guys, they may be unfamiliar with our new hit segment. So you guys are going to be the first guests to take part of our smoking hot news segment, and this segment is entitled "Good People, Bad Tweets."
All right.
So this is where
I've been wanting to do something like this for a long time. I don't tweet much, so I think I'm not going to be on this.
Yeah, we're definitely not going to make this cut, which is good. But
this is Jerry and I out there roaming those Twitter streets, trying to keep people in line. They're good people. I think their heart's in the right place.
That
sometimes.
might be debatable, though. I don't know.
It could be. Sometimes we're just trying to spur content.
Yeah.
But Mr. Dave Kluge, at Dave Kluge, and it's pronounced Kluge, by the way. It's German. Dave Kluge says, I'd put A.J. Dillon over DeAndre Swift in redraft right now.
Interessante.
Jerry, I'm going to let you go first because you are our resident Lions fan. Sorry about that.
Yeah,
this works first.
When you hear that, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
That's one of the dumbest pieces of shit tweets I've ever heard in my life. Let's get it started like that. First and foremost, you might be a good person, but what? Listen, marijuana is legal in the state of Michigan, and some of us have indulged in some of the highest of quality. And Kluge is on a completely different level of anything that the state of Michigan has to offer with that tweet. Did Aaron Jones die?
Dab right there.
Right, like. That's the waxiest. Anyway, we're not going to go down that rabbit hole. But did Aaron Jones die?
I just know that he was retweeting Troy King, T King, former guest on this show, just like the guys here from the FF Dynasty. Now, when I read that tweet out loud, Jay, what did you think?
Listen, man, these people on Twitter, they're just trying to say some outlandish shit to be like different, and it's just like
stir it up.
They're just trying to. They're not even stirring it up. They're just like they're trying to get hate mail. I don't know. Like I don't.
Engagement.
They're just saying shit to say shit because
any attention.
That's the nicest way to say it.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's just clickbait, but it's bad click. It's not even good clickbait. It's like poor clickbait.
Well, I guess the logic behind the tweet is maybe Swift isn't quite right, and maybe Aaron Jones isn't quite right, and maybe you're going to get a lot of AJ Dillon. But I think Kylin Hill's going to have a little bit something to say about that when
Aaron Jones not quite right.
I don't know. I think he's been having some.
I know Bakhtiari just got put on the PUP list, so that's a huge bummer to miss him for the first 6 weeks of the season. Right. But
yeah,
I mean, yeah, Kylin Hill, baby. Blow it up. Get some Kylin Hill.
Yeah, well, we can. So first of all, we'll say, Dave, you're a good guy. I think this is a horrible tweet. I know you're trying to get engagement and grow your brand, but man, I would not want to be the Skip Bayless of fantasy football. You do you, but
like
for me, this
analyst though.
But I thought that was Stephen A. Whatever, but anyway, I want a Kylin Hill take. I heard a Kylin Hill. Jay, what's your thought on Kylin Hill?
Oh man, we love Kylin Hill. We were kind of bummed out when he got drafted by the Packers, we were kind of bummed when he got drafted by the Packers because it was like they have two other guys that we really like there, and we don't know what's going to happen post Aaron Rodgers. Although I will say I don't feel as uneasy about the future of the Packers as I used to, and I do really like Kyle, Matt, LaFleur, Shanahan, whoever that guy is over there. That's the head coach. I mean, it's a great scheme, and they love to run the ball, and so then you get this. So we like the talent, we like the player. We didn't necessarily like the logjam spot that he ended up in, but then you watch him in the preseason, and he looks freaking phenomenal, and he's locked into the third running back spot. If one of those two guys gets hurt ahead of him, it would be lights out. And then I think he's still probably going to work his way onto the field some because I think he's probably a better third down type back than AJ Dillon is. And he's probably going to get some run. And I mean, you might be waiting. It's an investment, if you're taking him in the third round of a dynasty. But I can't wait to take him in the third round of a rookie draft. We got plenty of Kylin Hill and everything we've seen just backing up what we thought we saw in him in college. And, better get you some Kylin Hill, baby.
Casey, anything to add?
Oh, I mean, like you said, we're little bummed on the landing spot, but then also, as you get bummed about that, sort of like the same deal with a Chuba Hubbard. We really liked a Chuba, but then they went to a spot that you feel good about in the coaching staff. You're like, oh well, maybe a good value late. And I liked the fact that staff stabbed on him. Right. So. A little more added.
Same thing with the Elijah Mitchell, right? And then, which we'll probably get into with the Wayne Gallman getting cut, like he's making the squad, and that was another guy. We're just taking all the
late round stabs on running backs that you can stash on deeper bench teams that I feel good about, and I like this. I like the staff and the scheme around it. Those are the guys that I want to stab on. So,
if you're going to take a stab. On first of all, we've always been a draft running back, trade for wide receiver shop. That's been the first thing. And if you're going to take a flyer on a running back, especially late, why would you do it on a bad offense? Like Puka, like Puka Williams got cut today.
Yeah.
When you can take a stab on a guy like, you mentioned Mitchell in San Francisco. That's a great offense, and Shanahan tends to wear his running backs out pretty quick. On top of Raheem Mostert's lack of durability. So for him to get that third RB spot is kind of he's an early winner. There you go. We're going to talk about some winners and losers from cut down day.
To add to the Eli Mitchell thing, he had an abductor issue and then a couple issues, he didn't see a lot of the field there. So the fact, and that last preseason game
made some mistakes,
made a couple errors,
and they still are keeping him.
Exactly. Somebody went to the wrong side on a play action there, and I'm going to assume that Trey is probably getting that right, and it was probably Mitchell, and then a false start, but
illegal motion or something.
Ended up keeping him around and didn't cut the 6th round pick, and we saw some 4th, 5th, 6th rounders get cut today. So I was holding my breath a little bit for Eli Mitchell, but then they've been talking him up all camp, and you saw when he had the ball there was some explosion there, and ran a couple guys over, and a good pass catcher. So huge for the Eli Mitchell stock.
I don't know how these guys, Elijah, like y'all shorten them to Eli, but
It's fair.
It's everything. The other day, my son's 14. He told me I was sus. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm sus. He's like, Dad, that means you're suspect. I'm like, what the hell are we doing here?
I gotta say,
What do you do with all the time that you save by not saying the full word? Because it damn sure ain't your chores. I'll tell you that right now.
It just
all that
sounds
time you
cool.
save.
I gotta hand it to these kids and their lingo and the shortening of the words. At first, I hated it, but I fucking love it.
He loves it.
I love it.
He'll shorten anything.
Yeah.
So now his mother, my wife, is telling me that I'm sus, and it's
playing you like a fiddle.
I'll tell you something else that was. I'm going to use this as a segue. I tell you what else was sus was J.K. Dobbins playing that first series with the Ravens on Saturday. That was sus if there ever was sus, and hurt a lot of people. But I'm going to go back to Jerry. Jerry, what do you think about this whole issue? You can tell me what you're doing with Dobbins from a dynasty perspective, and then at least from a redraft, because I think this is the second biggest redraft weekend of the year coming up. What are you doing with Gus? And then I'm going to throw it back to the boys from the dynasty.
I feel like in redraft you want to handle your running backs pretty quick, so I'm not messing with Gus probably as high as somebody's going to take him. I'm guessing somebody's going to fall in love with him and think he's going to be just a badass, that guy, that James Robinson type of guy. And that's just not going to be me. As far as Dobbins and Dynasty, come on, man. Come on. Make this game a little bit easier for me. They take Cam away. They take ETN away. They take Dobbins away. This game's a bitch. It really is brutal. A bitch. But, what can you say? So, it's a torn ACL, which sucks. It's not the death sentence that we all, that it was when we all started playing this game. He doesn't have a ton of competition. Gus Edwards is a pretty good guy, but he's not another young guy that you've drafted. Darrell Henderson is a guy that at least has some draft capital. James Robinson might not have the draft capital, but he has the production, so that's a tough situation with ETN. I think he can bounce back from it. I just feel like you're pissing so much value down the drain with him. It sucks. You're just gambling with any of these young running backs. I don't want to say that I'm out. Before we hit record, we were talking about Travis Etienne and whether Randy was out on him because of these injuries. I don't want to say I'm out. I traded for Travis Etienne today. Actually, I traded what I think is a contender's first for him, just to sort of add to my roster. I'm really hoping I finish well, otherwise that's going to backfire, but it's tough. So what are you guys doing with Dobbins? I don't really know what to do. It's a struggle. It's sort of a pain in the ass. It puts you in one hell of a bind.
Yeah, I mean, if you have Dobbins, you can't move him, right? You got to sit.
Yeah, I mean, I would send out offers for Dobbins, but most people aren't going to sell for a discount at this point. I mean,
no. I mean, they might. And the thing is, though, I don't know that I'd want to buy Dobbins unless I'm not ready to win. You can't go buy a player like that, unless you're trying to get younger, and you might be able to sell a older guy and acquire some Dobbins. I'm down to acquire Dobbins, ET, all, who's the other guy that just went down?
Akers.
Cam Akers.
Cam. I'm a little, we weren't as high on Cam as the rest of the world was. So
bless your sweethearts for that.
Yeah. So I think we were all big Darrell Henderson fans. So we were pretty excited for him anyway. Not obviously not excited.
This year we were Henderson fans. We weren't Henderson fans when he came out. You could buy the dip.
But if I'm a contender, I'm not going after those guys. But if I'm not contending, I'm absolutely down to trade trade something to get them. If you're not trying to contend, maybe you don't want to trade next year's first because
See, that's the problem with this pick. So what can you do? Because if you're a contender, you don't want him. But if you're rebuilding, you have an early first. You also don't want to trade that. So it just puts you in a tough spot where you really can't do anything with him.
What I'm doing with him is I'm going to try to get him for a mid-level veteran because we're coming up on the start of the regular season. Not this Sunday.
Can I get an example? Not to interrupt you, but what kind of mid-level person are we talking about?
Tyler Lockett? Can I give you Tyler Lockett?
I mean, if you can get it, but that's a tough sell for somebody that has one of these players.
It is right now. It is right now. But that same person, especially if they were a contender or if they're in the middle of the pack, not this week, but next week, they have to set a lineup. And they're going to go set their lineup, and they're going to see a big fat hole in their flex position where J.K. Dobbins was going to reside. And then all of a sudden, they might get a little shit in their neck, and all of a sudden, you send them Tyler Lockett, maybe even Tyler Lockett in a third.
Why are they getting shit on their neck?
That's
dumb, man.
It's an expression. You don't have to just go with it, Jerry. Don't question me.
Listen, I had never heard such a thing.
Expression.
Thank you, Jay. I think when people have to, with some of these people, with some of these hurt players, when they have to go, especially like I said, if they were planning on contending, they don't want picks. They can't contend with picks. They contend. Can I give you Mike Davis? Can I give you Mike Davis in a second for J.K. Dobbins? It sounds bad today, but a week from Sunday it might sound okay. So those are some of the things that I'm looking to do. I would rank these hurt running backs because they're all three pretty good in my opinion, based on their talent and the type of injury they have. I believe I'd go ETN, Dobbins, Akers. I think that's I could see where you may want Dobbins over ETN because the offense is better in Baltimore and more conducive to running backs. But Jerry, how would you rank them, and then throw it back to those guys and see how they'd rank them?
I'm going Dobbins, ETN, and then Akers. Akers is always going to stay at the bottom. He was at the bottom even if all three of those players are healthy for me. You know me. Everyone that's listening to the WarZone right now knows I love James Robinson. So obviously I got to put ETN second. But what are your guys? You're in South Carolina. You've been watching Travis Etienne this whole time.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would agree with you. I would probably go Dobbins, ETN, Akers. I mean, obviously,
Yeah, I mean, we all had Dobbins ahead of all those guys,
prior
pre-injury. So I can stick with that. The ACL doesn't really scare me too much.
No.
Liz Frank might be a little bit more of a question mark because the severity of that, and it can lead to screws, and it's your whole year, just like an ACL is. But it's just a more rare, weird type injury, and I can't think of too many running backs that have had it or come back from it. I know there's been a handful of wide receivers that have come back from it, but I believe in Travis Etienne's character. He's going to do the right things to rehab it. If anybody can make it back successfully from that, it's Travis Etienne. But I probably will go Dobbins, Etienne, Akers.
I would say that when we were doing this, Akers and ranking all these guys and putting them in we definitely had Akers ahead of ETN just based off of the situation and the team that he was on, and that but we didn't really love Akers, so it's easy for us to just throw ETN ahead of Akers. We were in camp. Let's buy Darrell Henderson in the 10th round,
right?
And I think he's going to eat a lot more of the work of Akers than a lot of people realize. Would you trade like a Miles Sanders for Dobbins right now?
All day.
Yeah, I don't believe in Miles Sanders. I don't believe in here's the thing. In a vacuum, all the Eagles guys, I really like their talent. In that situation with that head coach and just the continuous over the last 2 or 3 years, the continuous string of poor decision making, I really don't want from a redraft standpoint. Fine, whatever, but I think you could get Dobbins plus right now. If I could send you Dobbins in a second if I could send you Sanders in a second and get back Dobbins in a first, I'm in there like swimwear.
Me too. 100%.
I'm
I
making
do the
that
trade
move.
straight up.
Yeah, I give you Miles Sanders.
Depending on what my team was. Now, if that team that you were talking
contender.
about that isn't contending, then obviously I think that's a great trade for me. Like, I like the talent of Dobbins more. I don't necessarily believe in Miles Sanders as much as maybe the next guy does. So I like that trade for me. That's why I threw it out there.
Yeah, but I think you could get more. I think first of all, if you offered Sanders straight up for Dobbins right now, you're going to get taken. Someone's going to say yes. If you send Sanders for Dobbins, they're just going to say yes. They're going to say, they're close enough, and this guy's playing. Give it to me. Let me sweeten the pot on my end. Throw me a first. I'll throw you a second. You get a player. Again, you're setting your lineup on Sunday. You get to plug this guy in. And the only thing in that deal guaranteed to be worth a lot more than it is today in March is that first. It's going up. Any bad news on Dobbins? I know there's talk of the LCL being involved. Slight value dip. His recovery's slowed. He's on the Tariq Cohen. He's on the PUP this time next year. Value goes down. But you know what? The minute that first goes on the clock, it's the hottest thing in that trade. So I think you could get it done. I truly do.
I think even if you don't have it, let's hypothetically, we're just going to talk about the straight up deal, Miles Sanders for Dobbins. If you are a bad team and you don't intend on contending, it's even better for you because it gives someone else the opportunity to win. And it gives you a better opportunity to get a 101 or a 102 pick because you're going to get the same caliber of running back, and then you're also not going to get any points. More importantly, which is what you need to do if you are rebuilding. You want to have
trade away points this year.
Yeah,
depending on how your losers bracket sets up. Like I just have some losers brackets where you play. Right. But yeah, no, I agree in theory of how most things go. 100%. And I love the I'm a big fan of the pick swap, the any swap, the 3-4 swap, the 2-3 to try to get a deal done. Absolutely. I love that you brought that up, that 1-2 kind of swap, because if that guy's a contender and can, like, sometimes you can get those picks to be real close to each other, sometimes it blows up in your face, but a lot of people that'll really make the deal feel so much closer and sweeter for them, and you can still get that higher pick if you're the first side or for the 1-2 swap or the 2-3 swap. Or I do that all the time.
Correct.
And it's just that little enticement to get it over the edge. I'm going to switch to quarterback. So Cameron Newton came out around lunchtime Eastern on Tuesday that the Patriots had had enough, and they sent Cam packing. And I'll go back to Casey. Casey, what did you think when you first saw that come across your Twitter timeline? Were you shocked? Did you kind of expect it? What were your thoughts?
I definitely didn't expect it. I was actually listening to Dan Patrick.
I thought you were going to say definitely didn't see it on Twitter.
Yeah, no, I was listening to DP this morning and they had just had Tom Curran on, and he didn't really say anything about him getting cut, which if you're not familiar, he's like the Patriot insider up there.
He's a great reporter. Great listen.
Fantastic for Patriot stuff. But he did say that he thought Mac Jones would be the starter, so there was definitely some inkling around his camp and people that there was maybe something going on there. So he didn't say Cam would get cut, but he was feeling like Mac Jones. And I don't know. I was kind of in Cam Newton there. I like the fact that he got there late last year. I kind of liked where this offense could go with a good defense, good O-line, and just kind of pound it around and Cam make enough plays and not do some of the bonehead things, and maybe get a little bit of that coached out of him by what's going on up there in New England. And just, so I felt good about that. And then it's New England and Belichick. So I didn't think that they would just hand it to the rookie. So I was definitely in camp Cam there and was fired up to see, the good and the bad with Cam, at least through half the season here, and see how it goes. So I definitely didn't see that coming, but I wasn't anti-Mac Jones by any means. I wasn't one of these guys who was like, I think Mac Jones is terrible and that was a bad pick. Like I think he's got good pocket awareness. He's always exceeded expectations, and it's always one of those things.
Looks like me with his shirt off.
Where everyone always wants to
buddy.
ask the question of whether was it Joe Burrow or was it the offense? Was it Mac Jones or was it the offense? But I feel like with both of those guys, there's we've seen those offenses without a guy like that operating it, and it's just on a whole nother level with a guy like those two operating it. So I was in camp Mac Jones, but I definitely was feeling Cam as a starter.
Now, what about you, Jerry? Now, you and I have been kind of neutral on Mac Jones. I'll tell a story. I'll tell on myself. So we're in a league. I'm in the league with these two gentlemen. They co-own a team in the Ultimate Dynasty Podcasters League. And back during the rookie draft, I traded Izzy from the Dynasty Trade Calculator. I traded him the 110, and he squeezed me for Marquez Callaway, which I'm not sold on him anyway. Jameis Winston forced 2 balls into double coverage, and all of a sudden Twitter loses its goddamn mind. But that's neither here nor there. But I did it for Sam Darnold. Now, I'm a huge Sam Darnold guy. I believe But I would be lying to you, not about the Marquez Callaway. Get out of here with Marquez Callaway. But I'm having buyer's regret on Mac Jones, because I am slowly starting to believe. I kind of get why they cut Cam Newton, because it's hard to create an offense that both Cam Newton and Mac Jones. It's, are you going to do it week to week? I'm thinking about your offensive line sets, the running backs, just the way that you scheme everything. It makes more sense, because Brian Hoyer, should something happen to Mac Jones, is a much easier replacement than going from Cam to Mac or Mac to Cam. You got to rearrange everything. I think the obvious winner is Damien Harris. I feel so good about all my Damien Harris trutherism this year. But Jerry, I was going to you. What do you think about this Cameron Newton situation?
I think it was Cam Newton's idea. I think they told him that he was not going to be the starter, and I don't think he just wanted to sit on the bench. I think he wanted the opportunity, because they actually cut Brian Hoyer too. It's Mac Jones and it's Jarrett Stidham.
Oh, I didn't see that. I didn't see
nobody
that.
else that's breathing. So I don't know why you would do that if the quarterback didn't suggest it. So I get it.
Jerry, look at you come out of nowhere with a great take.
Brian
I am
Hoyer,
shocked and amazed.
I got to know him.
I'm shamazed. Keep going.
A broken clock is right twice a day, man. But I don't know. It's just I was sort of with you. Like I thought Cam Newton was going to be the starter. They were going to give him a go at it. Then eventually they would lose a couple games, and then they would do the Mac Jones thing, sort of like they're going to do with Andy Dalton and Justin Fields. It just is too fishy. Like I don't know why. I don't know why the Detroit Lions cut every kicker they had. I don't know how you're an offense and you go in with just two quarterbacks. It's just there's some shenanigans afoot. And that's
all right. I'll throw this one around. Anybody can answer. So does this make with Mac Jones? Do you feel better about Hunter Henry or Jonnu?
Yes.
Are you at which one, or are you asking?
Yeah, if you had to choose one.
I've always been kind of
one.
feeling like Hunter Henry would probably be the more stable one, just kind of the chain mover, kind of eating up that middle of the field. Hunter Henry's always been that guy that can just find space to sit down. He was always really good at that kind of thing. He doesn't do anything super splashy, but he knows where to be and how to operate with a quarterback. So I think for me, that's always been like, I like Jonnu, but I think he'll be the splashier up and down kind of guy for that offense. And I always felt that Henry would be more consistent regardless of who was going to be the quarterback there.
All right, Jerry.
Listen, I've been ranting and raving about how Jonnu has been a disappointment, and I feel like I'm just doing it to a brick wall most of the time. Dude's never had over like 460 yards, so I'm going to say Hunter Henry. I think for a lot of the same reasons. He's, I think this is going to be good for both of them. What did Cam Newton have last year? Like 9 touchdowns passing or something? Like
It was single digits.
Yeah, like that's absolutely putrid. So it's got to be better than
Teddy
that,
Bridgewater said, "Step your game up," because Teddy had 15.
Best seasons he's had though were throwing when Greg Olsen was healthy and throwing to that tight end.
Yeah. So one last question on New England before we bump to some of these other situations: Aguilar or Jacoby Myers?
I don't want anything to do with anybody. You guys.
We've been pretty big proponents of snagging Aguilar when he falls into that like 15th, 16th round area. Like I got no problem taking a stab on him. He was great with the Raiders last year, and an overstatement, but for what he was and who he is and all the shade that's been thrown his way, he was great. And I felt like that was a good fit. They paid him some money. I think he's a pretty good player. Had some yips here and there, and when he's not yippy, he's a good solid player, like Jay Wayne said. So. But Jacoby Myers has a sweet spot in my heart as well. Maybe two different kind of styles of play there, more of a chain mover in Jacoby and more of a field stretcher, bigger play kind of guy out of Aguilar. That's a tough one. I feel like Mac Jones is an extremely good, accurate, deep field, down the field passer. So maybe I'm going to hit Nelson Aguilar there.
Yeah, well, I could be sleeping on Jacoby Myers a little bit too much, but I would take Aguilar. I think it feels pretty decent with Aguilar.
Well, the one thing I think we can all agree on is never kill Harry.
Yeah.
Harry! Someone said last week, they tweeted out that kill Harry was spotted with his arm in a sling, and I was like, the arm is that how you spell career in French? I mean, his career's in a sling. I would love to have that kind of money to be as bad at. He's like a weatherman. He's terrible at his job, but he keeps it anyway. I don't know. The other one I wanted to ask you guys about, and this one hits near and dear to me. So the Raiders cut John Brown, which in and of itself is not a big dynasty move. But I think that has to be a stock up for guys like Henry Ruggs, like Brian Edwards, maybe even someone that's from y'all's neck of the woods that I'm a big fan of, Hunter Renfrow. Now we know Darren Waller's the man, but who is going to be the 1B in this offense? If Waller's the 1A, who's the 1B in Las Vegas now that Mr. John Brown is no longer there?
I think
on?
I mean,
You going Edwards?
It's got to be Edwards. I don't have a ton of faith in Ruggs. There was a couple splashes there in the very beginning of the season.
It's kind of fun swinging on Ruggs sometimes.
It's certainly fun swinging on Ruggs, but I think Brian Edwards can be that possession, bigger bodied kind of guy, and I feel like he's got to be the 1B there.
How much confidence do you have in Brian Edwards? Because a lot of people love Brian Edwards like they're ready to build the statue of him. Are you to that point?
No. It's how much I love Brian Edwards is how much is the other people in the league don't love Brian Edwards is really the biggest thing.
If you're not
like,
the Brian Edwards guy,
no, I'm not going to go out and overpay for Brian Edwards. But if somebody is down, like I've in all the leagues that I'm in, I've sent feelers out for Brian Edwards and just to see if I could get something going for him. And in most cases, I've been shot down, but I haven't shot any feelers out for Henry Ruggs, and maybe that's a mistake. It's always Waller for us here. We're big Waller guys, and Renfrow, if you can get him for free, I guess I'm not upset about that. But
right.
I mean, he was torching
Ramsey,
which Ramsey refutes vigorously.
Now earlier Jay compared his physique to that of Mac Jones. Now Jerry and I shared a room at the Fantasy Football Expo. If anyone shares a physique with Hunter Renfrow, it's my co-host. It's Jerry.
I got the good hairline. That's all I got going for me.
You do have a beautiful head of hair, sir.
Does he have a bad hairline?
Oh, I have a terrible hairline.
Oh.
No, not you.
As in no hairline.
Renfrow does.
Oh, no.
Renfrow, yeah, he doesn't have
bad hairline. Yeah,
it's not great.
I'm going to get my boy G from the Aussie guys to do some Photoshop work of Jerry and Hunter Renfrow in the same picture. You couldn't pick. I'm with this whole situation in Las Vegas. I feel like I would rather have Ruggs because to me Waller and Edwards almost feel redundant to each other.
With a little bit of Renfrow too sprinkled in there, like that's all that short intermediate, which is what Carr wants to do. But then John Brown is more of what Henry Ruggs does. So
I think if I'm setting the lineup,
force it down the line, down the field.
I think if I have to set the lineup, I'd rather have Brian Edwards. I would feel comfortable clicking the box on Brian Edwards week in, week out as like a wide receiver 3. But if it was a dynasty best ball, I'm in a couple of those. I'd rather have Henry Ruggs because Brian Edwards doesn't feel like he's going to win me a week, even though he's not going to lose me one. But I feel like Henry Ruggs could have I really think John Gruden is trying to do a poor man's version of Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. And if that's the case, then that would make Henry Ruggs his poor man's Tyreek Hill. I would love to see it. I'd love to see him try. But I have no idea. I have no faith in that offense. But I'm looking to acquire cheap Henry Ruggs. The dynasty industry hates him. I would love to give you a second for Henry Ruggs.
Yeah,
next year's second.
I think Izzy right now has an offer to us for Damien Harris for Henry Ruggs, which you just
can't do it.
You just professed your love for Damien Harris.
We can talk offline. I do love Damien Harris. I did lose Cam Akers. I made a big trade with Tyler Gunther of the Dynasty Happy Hour. Maybe we'll cover that. But the other one I want to talk about was the mustache. Now, he had a haircut like Casey. Speaking of good hairlines, Casey's got a beautiful head of hair. And Gardner Minshew used to have that wig, and he cut it all off, and he's taken his talents to Philadelphia. What were your guys' thoughts? I'll start with Casey and Jay. What were your guys' thoughts when you saw that trade? I was like, what the hell's going on?
Seems like Philly is a team that's never shied away from loading up some quarterbacks and getting that quarterback room going. And it seems like just cheap insurance for me. I mean, if Hurts is bad and doesn't work out, then, I think, Gardner Minshew can come in and at least run this offense semi-effectively, and he's gonna go in there and give it his all. And is Gardner going with the Tennessee waterfall right now? Is he mulleting or what's
no?
Is he shaved head?
He was for the longest time. He had I was going to call. Actually, I've heard it called the Tennessee top hat and a Kentucky crash helmet. But
right.
whatever you want to call it, it's a slang for a mullet. But no, Jerry, what were your thoughts on this? As we're renaming mullets?
I don't know. Are you guys Jalen Hurts people?
No, not really.
Big
okay.
Fantasy wise, I have no problem in redraft, and I actually have no problem in Dynasty if the value falls far enough to try to sell within the first few weeks.
Okay.
But no, I'm not a huge believer in the overall longevity of Jalen Hurts.
I am also not a huge believer in him, but I also don't think Gardner Minshew is any good. So I do think they're just going to let Jalen Hurts do whatever he wants, and I'm sort of with you. It just seems like it's another guy that they just threw in there in case something happens. He's a mobile guy. If he gets hurt, they could just throw him in, try and win him week. He's a starter. He's got some experience. I don't know. I don't think it's a big deal. I really don't. I don't think either of these guys are the future. I don't think either of these guys are probably the starter when we're talking about this 365 days from now either. But
here are my concerns from Dynasty or from redraft. This is the same organization that made a Super Bowl winning head coach bench Jalen Hurts once for Nate Sudfeld. And Philadelphia's got a brutal schedule. They start at Atlanta, then it's San Francisco, then Dallas, then the Chiefs, then the Panthers, then Tampa Bay. That's not an easy schedule. At what point? And then they also have the Chargers, the Broncos defense, the Saints. I mean, if this team goes to like 2-6, 3-7, at what point do you think you see Howie Roseman on a podium going, we need to see what we have in Gardner Minshew? You know, we owe it to, and they didn't cut Joe Flacco. I was expecting after the Minshew trade, unless I missed it, they did. I want no part of this shit show organization, at least not from Dynasty. If you want to gamble on Jalen Hurts in a 1 QB redraft league,
which I just
two
did
big
this
thumbs,
weekend,
two big thumbs up. Go
it's
for it.
The only league I have him in. I figured, hell, I've been wrong before. I'll take a stab and see if it works out now. But
because if you miss, you can stream.
Yeah.
If you miss in a redraft, you can stream. But in Dynasty, I'm looking for any window to jump out of.
It's crazy that like the Philly organization. I'm from the area originally. Been down here for a long time.
You're from PA.
Yeah, but Philly's the closest big city, and everybody I grew up with is big Philly fans, which made me not a Philly fan because it's the worst fan base in the entire universe.
Your wife is a Philadelphia Eagles
she is,
fan.
but she's from Delaware.
Go Joe Flacco.
So, but it went from an organization that I didn't trust at all to an organization that I felt really good about to back to an organization that I feel terrible about the situation and who's running the show over there. Is such a weird, like, and not all that much has changed outside of Joe Douglas, who I do, really like over there in the Jets. And I feel like Howie Roseman is probably the crux of the issue over there right now. And I used to be a firm hater on the Eagles, and then I kind of got back in, and then all of a sudden it crumbled underneath my feet, and I'm back. Easy for me to get back out. So
I don't think I'd be worried about Jalen Hurts because of Gardner Minshew. I would have to disagree that they might just bench him to see what they have in Gardner, because 3-7 in the NFC East is still in the running for first place. So
mathematically still eligible for playoffs.
Terrible division. I think that they're in it till the end, and I think they need to see what they have in Jalen Hurts. And that's my problem with Jalen Hurts in Dynasty, is that next year I don't know that he's going to be the guy. They could bring in somebody else. They could draft someone.
That's my secondary fear, is that per Vegas, they're a bottom 8 team. So they're going to be in the bottom quartile, at least as of today, per Las Vegas, and that schedule seems to validate some of that. Then you realize they have an extra first-round pick from the deal.
They've been thirsty.
They have their own first. They'll have a first in a deal from the Dolphins. And then potentially, if Carson Wentz can avoid COVID, feet, just everything that is Carson Wentz, I will not go down that rabbit hole as a Colts fan. Whatever. I mean, I love Carson Wentz, but he's wearing me down. But if he can manage to play 70, 75%, whatever it is, they could wind up with 3 firsts. and this is a team that's been rumored with Deshaun Watson. Regardless of what, outside of maybe winning the division, I don't know how Jalen Hurts can keep this job. They're going to want the pick of the future.
Agreed.
The quarterback of the future, and they're going to have the draft capital to make that happen. All right, I got one more question for you guys before we bounce. Okay, what's up, Jay?
Just saying, if you take Jalen Hurts in Dynasty, you need to be selling him mid-season. That's
you're looking for that.
He's gonna have a killer game,
and week one's going to be the game.
Opportunity.
He might have a great year. He might have a strong year from a fantasy perspective. The Eagles still suck, and they ship him out or draft somebody else.
Remember, Jameis Winston finished a season as a top 5 fantasy QB only to get replaced that very same offseason. So fantasy excellence does not equal long-term job security. So I got one more. Speaking of Jameis, let's go out on this. Famous Jameis, named the starter in New Orleans. Casey, how'd that hit you? Oh, nice pop there.
Strong
Jay.
crack.
It was a strong.
What's that? I'm sorry. I was distracted.
The crack got you.
Yeah.
Jameis.
The crack will get you.
Kids, write that down. Crack is bad unless you're cracking open a tasty beverage from the Rev. Mm-hmm. But Casey, what were your thoughts on Jameis being named the starter for all the weaponry in New Orleans?
I just couldn't see any way that wasn't going to be the case. I have no faith in Taysom Hill. It was absolutely ridiculous that they gave him that kind of money. It was. I can't stand watching Drew Brees be in there, and then you're going to throw Taysom Hill in there, and like this was the worst. But this absolutely. If Taysom Hill's in there, like I don't want all that much to do with Alvin Kamara because of the PPR upside. I feel like this drastically, especially for like a redraft situation, really gives Alvin Kamara the bump that I needed to see to feel comfortable drafting him. And then, obviously we don't know what's going to go. The lack of weapons is the bummer for Jameis. There's the Callaway that you mentioned, which maybe you have no faith or maybe you do. I don't know. It seems like
he hates him.
Polarizing.
He hates him.
Regardless, if you did scoop him throughout the offseason, there's probably some value to be had there. Whether you want to hang on or sell. So they got to throw it to fucking somebody. So if he's got a rapport with him, I guess I'm cool with that. I was hoping that we'd see a little Troutman. It's a bummer that he's been a little banged up here.
What's his prognosis? I've yet to hear an official Troutman out at any length of time.
I haven't.
They said it wasn't a super major injury.
Yeah, that's
right?
all. That's all I've seen. But really, to wrap it up, I feel like this is the best outcome that could possibly be for the Saints offense, which is probably going to be not super great in any terms, but much better than what we were going to see with Taysom Hill at the helm.
And Jay, anything to add?
I think Kamara will be fine regardless. Sean's going to scheme that shit up. I'm anxious to see if Jameis can not throw 30 interceptions. I mean, it's just Bruce Arians is a great offensive mind, but maybe they tried to force it downfield too much, and Peyton is more of a pick your spot to force it downfield, and it worked out great in that preseason game. And yeah, he forced it into double coverage, but Mark Callaway made some amazing looking plays. Like it was like a one-handed catch and a great concentration, and they've been building him up all offseason. Just they can't keep their name out of his. They can't keep his name out their mouth. And, but if you wanted to ship him out for value gain.
I've seen him traded twice for a second in 2 different leagues where the current Callaway's GM got a second.
I would rather have Callaway than that.
I think for next year's second, if I had Callaway and I could trade him and move up to grab maybe like a Kenny Gainwell, or if I had Christian McCaffrey and I could get Chuba Hubbard or something like that, maybe I could move Callaway for somebody I really needed, maybe a running back for positional scarcity or something like that. But for next year's second, I think I'll just maybe take that gamble and try and get a first.
Yeah, seems to be two schools of thought. Is like, oh well, you got this free roll, so take the second and re-roll it, or hey, let's just see you got this guy for nothing. Let's see what happens in the season. Maybe I can get a fucking starter here. I think that's.
We saw some bad Travis Fulgham trades, and we won't get into his cutting because it doesn't take. But remember last year in season,
WR1 getting cut? How?
Quez Watkins, baby. Jerry, anything on the New Orleans situation?
If it would have been Taysom Hill, I would have broke my computer, is what I would say. Because I was super, super down on Alvin Kamara just because of the thought that it could possibly be Taysom Hill because he was so putrid in the passing game. With Hill, it was, he was going from 8 and 9 targets a game, and then it was 0, 2, 1, 2, 1. And then the very last game, he finally started to target the man. He's effing Alvin Kamara. That's what you should do.
He actually cost me a business opportunity. So me and G from the Aussie guys, G's a great graphic designer in his own right, and we had an old-fashioned Western poster, and it had Taysom Hill on there, and it said "Wanted for killing the fantasy value of Alvin Kamara." And we were going to put that on a T-shirt and sell that at Viridian Global, but it's famous Jameis. We can't do that shirt now. So he's cost us a business opportunity, but it's going to be a tough road in New Orleans. I'll be curious to see what Jameis does in this
now you
offense.
throw all this hurricane stuff on top of it.
Yeah,
you got to do all this other
continuity and
right. So I think Jameis is just going to come down to the maturity. Has he come to terms how much it seemed like the Drew Brees thing was a real thing, that there was a lot of emotion there, and he seemed like he really maybe have figured some things out and doesn't have to have the Jameis grenades that he used to have. And
we call those YOLO bombs.
Yeah, I like that.
Just throw up a Jameis YOLO bomb and see what's up. Well, listen,
the only player in NFL history to throw 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions.
The 30 for 30.
Because nobody on pace for 30 interceptions gets to play enough games to make that come to fruition.
That's a good call. Well, I'm gonna get you guys out of here, but I have a question for you, both of you. Give us a dynasty tip, whether it's for a new dynasty GM, an existing dynasty GM, a grizzled veteran. What's something that you're telling the listeners over at the FF Dynasty?
It's patience. It's always patience. It's the weakest thing of just about any dynasty owner I've ever seen. And now, Big Co, if he was here, he plays the game a little bit differently. He's a turner and burner. He literally plays this game so he could sell and buy. So in that regard, if you're that kind of player and that's what you want to do, but for just about everybody else, patience is something that nobody ever has in this game. And it's crazy the amount of value that you can get out of just having a little bit of patience. And sure, it can burn you, but I feel like it's the weakest link of so many fantasy owners.
If I could give out a piece of advice, it's something I wrote down today because I want to make a video about how to start your dynasty and all this. Like, there's a lot that goes into it, and for beginners or veterans, if you want to sell one of your top men, if you want to sell a stud, like what happened, we were talking off air where Travis Kelce just got traded for basically nothing. If you want to sell Travis Kelce in a tight end premium league, please shop him to the whole league. Like, shop him to everyone. Go to everyone's team and go to the best player you like on their fucking team and send the trade. Like, find something. Try to get way more than you would even want before you actually accept anybody's trade offer. Like, shop your studs to everyone for as much as you possibly can before you just take some random terrible trade.
At least get a dialogue rolling there so that that's available, and it's like, hey, this was too much. Are we back in? Yeah, I like that. It's good.
I love both those because we practice and preach patience all the time, whether it's in our Patreon or on the show. Patience is huge. And then you just roll the Travis Kelce grenade into the group chat. Hey guys, I'm ready to move on from Travis Kelce. Just send offers. Get that dialogue going, like Jay said. Well, listen.
Yeah, sorry.
No, you're good, man, dude. Take all the time you got.
If you're ready to sell Travis Kelce and you got some offers, dude. Pitt, like, this is how you negotiate. Say, hey, this is the offer on the table. If you want to play it that way, like, look, I'm getting this. Does anybody want to beat this right now? I don't need to sell Travis Kelce. I want to sell Travis Kelce. Here's the deal. What do you got? And everybody's values are a little different on players. So the deal that I'm throwing out that I think's better, the guy who has Kelce might not think it's better, but like, you negotiate and pit people up against each other when it's a high value item like that.
Couldn't agree more. Jerry, you've been known to do that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, that's because F everybody in my leagues. I'm trying to win. I'm selfish. Yeah. I mean, I just want to build on top of patience a little bit, and it's don't overreact. The problem is everybody reacts immediately. And it's one of the stupidest things you could do. Like we talked about trading Jalen Hurts, right? Like maybe even if you don't like the man, like don't trade him right now. Wait till the big game comes. Wait till something happens. You will get an increase in value. It's always those sorts of things. Exploit the other players in your league. Somebody is going to overreact and overpay in a trade because they're trying to get into the playoffs, or because they want a bye week, or they want to do something else. Exploit.
And if you've been in the league long enough, you probably know who that is already.
Bingo. Yeah, it's just understand your horizons. Don't overreact. And yes, for the love of all that is good, I'm going to say it one more time because it's necessary. Be patient. Understand each situation.
Yeah. So, well, I'm going to ask you guys a question. We touched on it for a second. Mac Jones is the starter. Do you feel that that's an improvement for the running back situation? You did say Damien Harris, but overall, you guys agree that that's probably best case scenario for Pat's running backs? Or did you think Cam was, with the running style, opening up some more lanes, a little bit better for me running back group?
I believe that's a really good offensive line. They got some guys opted back in from COVID last year. And I'll trade some narrower running lanes for more PPR upside with Damien Harris. But here's my plan with everything Patriot except Mac Jones. I'm going to turn and burn because I love Damien Harris. I acquired him for a second in a league. I don't see Bill Belichick giving any rookie. He didn't even give Sony Michel, who he drafted in the first round, a ton of run. Who's he going to give the run to? The grizzled third-year veteran in Damien Harris, who's finally earned his role. Yes, you're going to see some Ramondre Stevenson. Yes, you're going to see some James White. Yes, he's still there. He is not dead or retired. James White is still there. But I'm going to trade that PPR upside because I think it was Graham Barfield. It was him or someone from that group. And he said that a target is worth 2.8 times as much value as one rush in a PPR league. So I'm gonna forego a little bit of rushing to think that maybe Damien Harris gets 1 to 2 extra check down dump offs a game. Yeah, and I no longer have to
check it down. And Cam wants to call his own number on the goal line.
That's where I was heading. TDs. That's where So maybe Damien Harris was previously capped at 4 or 5 rushing touchdowns. That number could touch 10. I'm not going to be silly and go to call for a LeGarrette Blount 18 from 5 or 6 years ago, but to think 10 touchdowns is in the realm of possibilities is completely there. So I don't know how much run Stevenson gets because he is a rookie, and again, but I will say this: do I trust Bill Belichick long term with running backs or offensive players in general? Not unless their name's Tom Brady or Randy Moss. Everybody else at the end of the season, it'll be a fire sale on Patriots for me. I'm buying Damien Harris now. I want him to blow up in season, help me win some leagues, and then I'm going to ship him just toward the tail end of the season. And if I'm not a contender, I'm looking at every contender around trade deadline time, around that playoff time. Come and get him, boys. Go win a championship. I need that first. I need this young upside guy. Maybe I could get a J.K. Dobbins straight up for Damien Harris from a guy who's trying to win a league.
Got a dead asset on the bench and trying to win.
Yep. So, those are all moves that I'd be looking to make with Damien Harris. So, again, all of our listeners and patrons know what a Damien Harris guy I is, but this is going to be short. This is going to be a short-lived love affair with me and Damien.
I like it. I like everything you said there. Short.
Yeah, Dynasty, the NFL, it's like an acronym. It says National Football League or not for long. Nothing lasts forever. I was talking with some guys in a group chat today about the thing that Todd Gurley is unemployed. He's 26 years old, former first-round pick, cannot get a job. So I'm looking for security and long-term stability. And what was Harris, like a 3rd or a 4th-round pick?
Yeah,
something like that.
I mean, the Patriots are going to have like 37 compensatory picks they do every single year, and the NCAA runs in 25-ish running backs a season. They're going to bring in someone else, and then they're going to bring in 4 or 5 guys, and it always gets muddied. So I'm going to take the points now and cash out later. That's me on Damien.
I like it.
Yep.
I like it.
All right. Well, I like the FF Dynasty. You guys, and we were talking off air. I love. First of all, you all are super entertaining. You guys are great together. It's just the two of you. You bring in the man, Big Co.
But
here's the thing. I would say there's a lot of good content out there about trying to get better. I do not give a rat's ass about the content. I want to be entertained. You guys are very entertaining, and your YouTube videos, the quality is top notch. So any of our listeners that have not listened to the FF Dynasty, first of all, shame on you. But head over to their YouTube and listen to their podcast. But what's going on with the rest of the off season, and then rolling into week 1 with the FF Dynasty?
Hey man, really appreciate all the kind words. That was very nice. I don't think anybody's ever said all those nice words at once to us. So
He's never actually said any of those nice things to me. We've been doing it for 3 years.
Jerry, they're the best. This is no bullshit. I mean, I've been listening to these guys for a long time. First of all, it's always nice to watch and hear fantasy advice from people that sound like you. That's number one. Number two, I'm a production value snob of the highest degree. Whatever you think of Matt Kelly and the guys at Roto Underworld, their production quality is top shelf. If you're looking for something, an alternative, because we all are, an alternative to Roto Underworld, especially for Dynasty, I would challenge you to find better production value and production quality than these guys. Sorry to interrupt and give you some more compliments, but I truly believe that. That's important.
yeah, we appreciate it. We really do. And that Jay Wayne works really hard. He's the heart and soul behind all that kind of stuff. So he does his thing and works really hard and is very particular. Has spent, countless hours,
Way too much time
wading through all that kind of stuff and asked me so many stupid questions about the dumbest shit for the production.
It's like, I don't care.
But yeah, no, that's just, thank you. Appreciate it.
Much appreciated. That made my day.
We appreciate you guys having us on. We don't do a whole lot of guests, and we haven't done a whole lot of guest spots because it's usually 3 of us, so there's already a lot going on. But so this was I enjoyed it. This was nice and easy and fun, and you guys do a great job over there.
Yeah,
We appreciate it,
you having
man.
us on.
So, all right, but make sure you're checking out the FF Dynasty. Again, a personal favorite of mine, a guilty pleasure having these guys on after sharing a league with them for a couple of years. So on behalf of those men, that is Casey, that is Jay Wayne, my co-host, it is Jerry Sinclair. Remember, here at the Dynasty WarZone, we're just trying to make the world a better place for fantasy football. We'll see you back here, I don't know, sometime this week. Have a good week, guys.